Welcome to, is it episode 3?
Episode 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a couple of weeks off, didn't we?
Yeah. Busy
ahead of
recording.
us. We were trying to move out,
Can't
aren't
do
you?
podcasts every day. We've got mixes to do and bands to record and things like that.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
So should we do a bit of vocal production, I guess?
Yeah, I think last time we covered drums, bass and guitar, didn't
Bass and
we?
guitars, so about time we got on the vocals.
Yeah, cool.
Most important thing in the track.
Well, yeah.
Got to get it right.
It's the only thing I think, if it's wrong in the track, no one likes the track, isn't it? Everything else you can kind of get away a little bit, but...
Yeah. There's a lot of people record vocals at home, I guess, and wouldn't mind a bit of guidance on how to do it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of hacks coming up online about how to record, and people saying stand in your closet and things like that.
Quilt over your head.
Yeah, quilt over the head.
Vocal booth in the wardrobe.
Yeah, that's the one I hear the most.
Vocal booths now that it's like a box that you put your head in with the mic stand on it, and a little window in the side.
Yeah, I've seen it. Have you tried one?
No.
It looks really weird, doesn't it? Where you just like a little hole for your head to pop into.
I get a bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, it would be very dead though, wouldn't it? Like for a home recording setup, I guess.
Yeah, seems that's all you've got, I guess.
Yeah.
I've just set up a studio. My friend set up a studio in his house in Ibiza. Went to Ibiza to set a studio for him, but it was a nightmare because it was a Spanish house, all tiled floor and reflective surfaces everywhere you went.
Yeah. Marble on every surface.
So we just found a corner, took the doors off the wardrobe.
Yeah.
So he had all his clothes hung up in the wardrobe, so that was quite dead. Didn't put him in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Loads of rugs on the floor, hung some stuff up on the walls, got one of those SE reflection filters, doesn't have to be SE, there's lots of other brands available.
Yeah.
They're amazing if you're at home recording. They really help deaden it off.
Yeah.
But try and get one that comes like as much far around the mic as you can. Some of them just go like around the back a little bit, the cheaper ones.
Yeah.
You need one that comes right round it as far as you can put the mic in there. And then if necessary, put a cover over the top of that, over where the mic is, and that's enough usually.
Yeah.
And that would probably be all right.
I find mic choice is very important with stuff like that as well. Like, these are great for
use the best mic you can
because
afford.
they reject everything. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
if you've got a bad sounding room, these will kind of help you out.
Yeah. Classic vocal mic. People, not the first thing people would go for as a vocal mic, but
I was reading
Michael
something
Jackson
the other day. Yeah, Michael Jackson.
There you go.
I mean, if he's good enough for him, then to be honest,
I'm not sure I believe that.
Do you not? Do you often? I often think that when they say stuff.
I think they would use it in the control room when he was doing demos and writing and takes. Sometimes you set up a mic in the control room, but the final take, they go in the other room and they use a nice mic.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, Valve tube mic. He was in Power Station in New York because they've got like the best mics in the world there.
Yeah.
With Quincy Jones. Maybe, you never know, if they got the good take.
Yeah, I suppose if it's just up in
some
the room
takes,
and he's done a
maybe
take
still,
and they
still
just...
from the 50, from the SM.
Yeah, I think it's probably more to do with that, isn't it? If he's gone and just done a rough take on it.
There's another story I heard about Bono. All YouTube vocals are done with a handheld mic in the control room and the speakers up loud.
Well, I heard that about the script as well. Doesn't he record? Apparently, there was a rumour going around that he recorded all his vocals on SM57.
Yeah. They did their album on the back of a tour bus, didn't they?
Yeah. He was using when I saw them live. He was using 57. So I don't know if there is some merit to that.
Yeah, actually, he was using 57 when I saw him. We supported him a couple of years ago. This band I was working with.
Yeah.
And he was,
So maybe there is some merit.
He had a radio mic. He didn't have a 57. He had a radio mic.
Right.
Because he was out in the crowd.
Ah, right, yeah.
So he can't have had a 57.
Well, I don't know. Someone might have botched something together.
Well, it wasn't even his vocals. I can't even insult the script.
Yeah, it's tricky these days, isn't it? Because you don't have to be that good live to sound very good live anymore, do you? There's the way technology has kind of evolved. It helps bands out a lot.
Yeah.
Which I think, in one respect, you kind of got to go with it because that's where the music's gone, isn't it? So
we could do a whole podcast on the live thing, couldn't we?
Yeah.
We should stay on vocals.
Yeah, we should.
We'll do live soundtracks and backing tracks and how people cheat you live. Next episode.
Yeah. So vocal techniques.
So mics, I'd always go the best mic in the cupboard I'd use for the vocals most of the time.
So do you ever do the setting up loads of different mics, getting them to sing? You do it?
I've done a few times, yeah.
I never feel like I have time for that.
No, I had a famous session with M People back in the day where they booked like 2 days in the studio just to choose the mic.
Yeah, really.
£1,000 a day, and we had every mic in London from all the hire companies and all the studios. They'd got like a collection of about 20 mics.
Right.
And
what did you end up going with?
67.
Right. Yeah.
U67.
Fair enough.
With an Avalon preamp just like that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's what, I don't know why.
A lot of people don't like them Avalon preamps,
It just
but
fits
I
her
really
voice.
like it.
It just suited her voice.
Does it?
I guess, yeah. And we had Neves, we had APIs, we had all sorts of different mic amps as well.
Yeah.
And that's what we ended up going with.
Right, fair enough. I think sometimes usually if it works, doesn't it?
Yeah. The price was a big thing. I think Paul wanted one at home as well.
The what?
I think Paul wanted to buy one for his house as well. So
Right.
it's like, so he got one on the budget and then took it home at the end of the album.
Right, yeah. Oh, nice.
She
I do like it. I like it on snares as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it does something nice to snares.
Yeah. No, I love those things. They're brilliant. Very valvey.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit cautious about overusing valves on vocal things. I tend to go, if I go with a valve mic, I'll probably go with a transistor preamp and compressor.
Right, okay.
Or if I go with a transistor like a U87, then I'll want a valve compressor on there.
So you kind of match it.
And
Yeah.
But you can overdo the valve thing, I think.
Yeah.
And if it's like you've got a complete valve chain, it just ends up a little bit too dull.
Right, yeah.
Vocals, it's really important the vocals are bright for me.
Yeah.
In a mix these days, especially in a modern mix and modern music.
Yeah, I've always wanted. Have you seen those? Like, is it Mark? The EQs, the blue ones that they've got an airband on them, and they just are great for vocals because it brings all that top end in a really, really nice way.
I remember the old AMEC Rupert Neve channel strip had an air button on it. It's amazing.
Yeah, they've got one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that is just really, though, you can do that with any EQ. It's cranking on 20k.
Yeah.
Putting the high frequency up as high as it goes and turning it up quite a lot.
Yeah.
With a tight cue, so it's just really doing the really top stuff you can't really hear.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to do it with the Avalon for a couple of weeks ago. We were doing something. I was an acoustic guitar, and I just cranked the top as much as it would go, and it sounded really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's harmonics up there.
There is.
Even though we don't hear them, you perceive them.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I did a lot of work on super audio CDs, and they're like super high bandwidth, 196k.
Right.
And everything had to be recorded from microphone to mix at 196. It had to be a high band all the way because you didn't want to cut those frequencies off that we can't hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole philosophy behind it. Is even they go up to 40, 50k, and everyone's like, "What's the point? Your ears stop at 20."
Yeah.
But there's stuff up there, harmonics and things like that you're conscious of when you listen to music, and it matters.
What sample rate do you record at?
44.1 most of the time.
So,
Convenience.
because there's a lot of talk at the minute, isn't there, about using the bigger ones? Because as technology grows, there might be new technology that comes out that lets you hear more. Do you know, like same as DVDs come out with, and then they went to Blu-ray and 3D, whatever. Do you not think that using the higher ones now would let your music stand?
When super audio CDs were around, I did everything at 196.
Did you?
Yeah, and we used to use I think it was called a Prism system, which was like Pro Tools, but super high bandwidth. Pro Tools didn't go that high then.
Right.
And we used to use that as a multi-track
for
a lot of stuff, and then convert it. And the theory was, if you recorded it at high bandwidth, and even if you converted it back down to 44 or 48 afterwards, it still made a difference and made it better. And
could you tell, or
not really?
No.
And then MP3s came out, and everything went to streaming, and it sounded awful anyway. So
well, that's the thing these days,
what is
isn't
the
it?
point? Really,
you record it as high level as you can, so they put it on Spotify.
Just for compatibility, and so you don't get things playing back at the wrong speed.
Yeah.
44.1, I stick with it really.
So would you advise me to change back to 44.1? Because I've gone to 48.
I get confused with 48s, and I sometimes get things at the wrong speed.
Right.
Because it's the wrong sample rate, and so or you send it to someone and they're listening to it and it's too slow. They're listening to it slower than I was because they're on 44.1. They're playing back a 48k file.
Yeah.
And some systems will just play it, but play it slower.
Yeah.
Other systems will tell you it's the wrong sample rate, but it's hard, so it's just to try and avoid that.
I think
confusion.
Logic auto converts it anyway, doesn't it, to what sample rate you set Logic to?
Pro Tools doesn't always.
Yeah, well, we noticed that yesterday.
Yeah, there's a preference in Pro Tools. So. I think in Logic there is as well. I think there's a preference in Logic to
probably. I've just never changed it.
Yeah, but it defaults as it should to convert.
Yeah.
Pro Tools defaults to not convert.
Because I've heard some people saying that when you export, so if you do your session in Logic, you should export it at the highest sample rate you can, because then when you come to mix it, you've got more information to mix it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if there's any merit to that.
Probably all's true.
Yeah.
But again, what is the point? Because at the end of the day, it goes to an MP3 that gets streamed on YouTube or Spotify.
Yeah.
So everything you put in there is gone anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the point of putting it in the first place?
Yeah, true.
Kind of.
I don't know if it's just I
think until MP3s and streaming get to higher bandwidth, if
that was my point though.
Yeah.
Is it worth it for future proofing your mixes and stuff, or
no? Because you'll always be able to upscale it.
Yeah,
and it's always probably going to sound all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to vocals. This is the thing with these podcasts, isn't it? You just literally go off on tangents for like.
So mic choice, room.
So room dead as possible.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't really want any
reflections,
natural reverb on your vocal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've done vocals in churches and things like that where you wanted loads of natural reverb.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you do it as an actual choice, so you know what the room sounds like, and you want.
But generally, you want to control it in the mix or in post. So
yeah.
You keep it as dry as you can when you record it.
So what about getting like the best performances out of vocalists?
Headphone mix is the most important thing.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this lots.
They really got to have the best headphone mix possible.
Yeah.
A lot of my finished vocals is I get them to sing it one more time once I've done the mix.
I always do it as well, because if they've got a good take, they're normally a lot more comfortable.
One, they know the song a lot better by then.
Yeah.
If you've got this luxury, you don't always have that luxury to do that. But ideally, if it's something I'm producing and I have a choice. If it's just I'm working for a band and just engineering, you don't always have that choice. So, get the mix finished, and then I'll bounce an instrumental down, make a new session, and have a go at the vocals again.
Right. Yeah.
Or export some stems into a new session, and do it with so the singer's singing over the finished track.
Yeah.
Because they sound so much better when they do that.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I think sometimes it's hard when I've got a band in for the weekend and we're doing like 6 to 8 tracks.
Yeah.
You're trying to do it so fast that they're singing over stuff that's not mixed anyway. So
it's not mixed, and they get 1 or 2 takes at the vocal, and then
you're on to the next one.
You make the best of it, really.
Yeah,
and that's the band's choice, isn't it? I always advise bands not to try and do that many tracks in one session.
Yeah,
I try and just do 1 track a day. I
think bands are used to it now, though, aren't they? Like most studios are offering like 10 songs in a day.
Yeah.
So it's hard to convince them to come in for a day to do one song.
We're going backwards. It's going back to what it was in the 60s when you didn't have any studio time and it was so expensive you could only afford 3 hours.
Yeah. I have seen in the last couple of years, I've seen a massive shift in that kind of mentality with bands where it used to be a weekend to do 2 songs to I need to do 14 songs in 2 days. And you're trying to convince them.
I tell them no.
Yeah.
I turn it down.
And then they want to do it live as well, so they want them in the same room and do it at the same time.
Yeah.
And you're just like... You should want the best outcome, and the best outcome is going to be you can do it live, but you're going to have to overdub most of it.
Yeah. You can do it live and pretty much do it without spill and everything like that. The vocals are always the problem again, though. Really, if you're going to get the band all in the room playing live, you're better off if they don't sing.
Yeah,
they just do it instrumental and then.
But that was why we built the vocal booth here, so that for bands that do want to do it live, we can still isolate the singer.
Yeah,
and we've even set it up in there.
Well,
we've even set it up in there so they can plug their guitar in. It goes to another room.
Yeah, right.
So you still get some string bleed, but it's not unusable. Do you know what I mean?
It's the vocal bleed on the drums that I don't like the most. So coming through the overhead, you can always hear the...
Well, it makes quantizing very difficult as well, doesn't it?
In that kind of a live take, don't quantize.
Well, yeah.
If you can get away with it. Quantizing then and that sort of stuff as well, because the bass coming through the drum mics as well. So as soon as you...
Yeah.
The band have just got to be tight. If they want to do it live, then they have to be tight.
I think there's a thing as well. It's like back in the old days when they wanted to do it live or had to do it live, there was much more thought process put into the level of leveling the room. Do you know what I mean? Like
the bands had been well practiced. They'd been on tour playing like 60 nights, 60 days.
But just as an overall, like everything is mixed in the room at the right level.
Yeah.
So the guitar amp isn't too loud, which 9 times out of 10 the guitarist is cranked far too loud.
Yeah.
The bass is in line with the drum level, so it all sounds like a mix anyway. And I think that isn't thought about as much these days with bands that are wanting to do stuff live.
The best bands mix themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the young bands who don't have a clue, who all turn up full, and even at gigs it's the same, isn't it? When you're doing a gig, a great band mixes themselves on stage.
Yeah.
And it's
because we had the same thing when we were doing recorded rehearsals here. So I was like filming and recording the rehearsals, and 9 out of 10 sessions you were telling the guitarist to turn down like half his volume, like knock half your volume off.
Yeah.
And some of them just didn't even get it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I had bands coming in with full blown stacks. trying to get them in here. I was just like, well, what are you going to do with that?
Point? Yeah, you're not in a stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Like, read the room.
Yeah.
But no, it's just funny, isn't it? But so, back to vocals. So, monitors.
So getting the best mix, having a decent set of headphones. I like to give the vocalist the mix. I don't like letting the vocalist use these things and choose their own mix, especially a vocalist. So
I
that's
kind
great
of
when they're tracking, but
with sessions with because
like
for
to be in
people that are
control.
listening online, it's the Behringer like monitor mixes he's still referring to.
yeah,
I like to just give them a stereo mix of their song and then
Yeah.
give them their own mix of their vocals so they can turn themselves up.
yeah, and sometimes they don't. They turn themselves up too loud, or they have themselves too quiet.
Yeah.
I like to just control it and give them what I'm hearing. And often when I'm recording vocals, I'll be sat in there with headphones on, listening
to the same
mix as
mix.
them,
Yeah.
making sure it's with the same kind of headphones they've got.
Yeah.
That's important because you wear different headphones to the singer. You're not hearing the same thing they're hearing.
Yeah.
So you should wear matched headphones when
I
you're
think
doing that
headphones
kind of
is
stuff.
just one of those things, isn't it? For studios, you have to have really good headphones because
Yeah.
it's the main. If people have good sound when they're recording, they play so much better.
The problem is they're so expensive and
Yeah, they really are.
difficult to repair. So a lot of studios end up with crappy AKG
And they get battered. Like, no one respects the headphones in
where you can
studios
replace
today.
components. So why does someone make a good quality headphones
Yeah.
at a decent price with replaceable drivers, and
Yeah.
replaceable bits?
Yeah.
Because they always break.
Well, because people want you to buy new ones, don't they? That's why.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I use the AKJ MX40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like them. I quite like them for mixing sometimes as well. If I'm referring back to a mix in them, they sound generally quite flat.
I need to get sponsored by KRK. Speakers and headphones.
Yeah,
I love the fact
headphones as well,
I love
KRK.
the fact that the headphones match the speakers.
I didn't know they did headphones.
Yeah, the headphones are wicked.
Are they?
They're really good, yeah. But they do break. The cables go. I've gone through about 5-6 cables.
Right.
Like, a couple of times a year. Now, finally, third-party people have started making the cables that fit.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Before, you always had to buy it direct from KRK, who I'm not sure even exist anymore because they used to be owned by Gibson, didn't they?
I don't know,
They went through a time, the last few years, it's been difficult to get the cables.
Right.
And you had to get them shipped from America or whatever because the ownership changed.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to all that. So, yeah, the cables are a bit dodgy. If you yank it a little bit too hard, it goes out of phase and you lose one side and you can't repair them.
Have you got a pair of them then?
Yeah, I've got 2 pairs.
I'll have to have a look at them in a minute. I've never seen them
They're
before.
both a bit knackered.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to get replacement foam bits for them
Right, yeah.
now, and they're out of stock.
Of course.
been out of stock since before Christmas.
You're having an issue with replacement parts at the minute, aren't you?
Yeah.
One of your mics needs a part replacing as well,
All that
doesn't it?
stuff. I found that now. I can order that this month.
Have you found it?
HHB have finally got one.
Right.
138 quid for the smallest thing you've ever seen.
Really?
Diaphragm for the mic.
Of course it is.
But I'm looking forward to getting that mic up and running again because it's a £1,000 mic. That
Yeah.
It's still going. And they're great. It's the original Rode Classic 2.
Right, yeah.
And I used to use that for vocals all the time when I was in Kenobi.
So here's a question for you. If you had the choice of any vocal mic, because you've worked in big studios and you've probably used most vocal mics,
Probably a U67.
it would be a U67.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's come out continuously. Every time I've done a test, it pretty much wins it.
Does it, yeah?
And I overs, I don't know.
It's not a 47.
No, it looks like an 87, but it's a valve version.
Yeah.
And it comes with a separate power supply. 47 is a
Normally
little
about
dull.
£10,000 price tag, isn't it?
Not far off.
Yeah.
There's a reissue now, and they're
Is there?
not even make a brand new one. And
Right.
I've not tried one, but they're supposed to be amazing.
Right?
They're about 6-7, I think, 6-7 grand.
Yeah. I mean, for the
Nothing
difference,
much.
you might as well just go for the old one.
The old ones are going for like 10 now, aren't they?
Yeah.
10, 15, even.
I think if I was going to spend 7 on a new one,
I wouldn't buy an old one
because of the parts.
because of so many have got problems.
Yeah.
Like even Strongroom used to have one, and it was brilliant. But after about 4 hours, it would start going.
Really?
You'd have to switch it off and go and have a cup of tea and let it cool down for a bit, and then
Right, yeah,
it'd be good for another 4 hours or
The
so.
valves are overheating.
And they always do, and they always have the old ones. Every single old one I've hired or in studios been using them.
Yeah.
90% of them have little problems, little glitching, little.
Yeah, yeah.
The new ones would work perfectly, and I
Right.
think would sound just the same
Yeah.
because it's made by Neumann. I trust them.
I'm sure we could probably find somewhere that you can rent one from and try
Yeah.
a new one.
Yeah.
So it'd be a U67. That'd be your mic of choice.
Being in London.
Yeah.
In London, I miss that about being in Manchester. In London, the hire companies are great. So yeah, 67 is probably my favourite mic with a Neve 1073 mic amp.
Yeah.
A real one, but not a reissue.
Have you
one.
tried the BAE ones?
No.
Because a lot of people say they are better than the Neve ones.
They're better than the new Neve ones.
Right, but not better than the old
Because Neve
ones.
have just gone downhill and the modern stuff that they build now is not great.
Yeah.
There's a problem at Neve at the moment. The staff are not happy. The guy who owns it's not very good.
Right.
Crabtree or something he's called.
Because they're going through the same thing Gibson went through a couple of years ago then, are they?
He owned AMS, which was the AMS reverbs, delays, DMX16, RMX16 in the 80s with digital reverbs.
Yeah.
And then they became, they were one of the first people to make digital desks.
Mm-hmm.
The AMS, whatever number it was, broadcast desk, was all fully digital desk.
Right.
The only one in the world. So Neve came in and bought them to get the digital technology off them. And now, so Mark Crabtree, now the original owner, he owns the whole Neve thing now.
Right.
And it's all based in Burnley at the old AMS factory. Not old, it's new, but it's kind of modern setup.
Right.
But I don't know, it just seems badly run. I know a few people who work there. The staff are totally unhappy. They're mistreated.
Did you see their desk they brought out last year?
Yeah,
That was just a weird choice, wasn't it?
Yeah. So their classic stuff's amazing. And the 88R, the flagship desk, is amazing. But it's got build problems, and if you spend £500,000 on it, you've got to be prepared to have a few teething trouble when they first install it.
Yeah, someone once told me if you buy a Neve desk, you have to have a repair person basically on site to fix it every time it goes wrong.
You do with any big, large format console, really.
Yeah.
Because they do go around regularly.
Yeah.
SSLs quite often, loads of SSL sessions. I've had SSL sessions in an old Matrix studio in London. The whole centre section's gone.
Really?
In the middle of the night, and the guys come out in the middle of the night, swap the centre section from the one from the room next door.
Right.
On fly, without powering down the desk.
Bloody hell.
Got it back up and running again.
Jesus.
And regularly, as an assistant at Strong Room, I had to change out channel strips in the middle of the night on the Neve and the SSL.
Really?
And you had this big, huge thing to slit it over the channel strip, screwed it in at both ends, so you pull the whole thing out.
Yeah.
And they're about this deep, a Neve channel strip.
Really?
They're like this long and this deep.
Yeah.
So two of you lift it out.
Bloody hell.
We had 2 spare channel strips upstairs permanently.
Right.
So you put one of the spares in,
and send that
the
one
one you'd taken out would get repaired.
Yeah.
And
goes on a cycle.
Quite a regular thing, you'd have to swap a channel strip out.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, so I talked about large format consoles. There were the days when you used to be able to mix on those things.
Yeah, well, mixing, we should probably talk about mixing a little bit, shouldn't we?
I miss mixing on a big desk. There is a certain sound to it. It's not, you still don't quite get the same thing mixing in the box.
I've never actually done any mixing outside of the box, but I can imagine it's a lot more fun than mixing in a box.
It's more fun.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. You've got that Starship Enterprise factor where you're sat behind a huge U-shaped SSL.
I was watching a YouTube video. This guy's got an AWS SSL desk, and he takes old songs and gets the stems for them and remixes them, and he does it in like 30 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And he was doing the Doobie Brothers,
right?
And his mix, I swear to God, I mean, watching him is quite incredible because he does it so fast you can't really keep up with what he's doing. But it sounded better than the original song. And it took him about 22 minutes to get it. And I was just like, if you know what you're doing with one of them, you could be quite dangerous, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But it just looked great fun.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a sound to it. I don't know, it's about the signal levels and that slight bit of overdrive by running the channels hot and things like that. It gives you a characteristic you just can't get from plugins.
Yeah.
Having all the everything coming up a separate channel with its own EQ and its own compressor, really high quality ones just in the channel strips, plus your choice of outboard in analog studios. You've usually got a whole racks full of all the best compressors and stuff in the world.
Yep.
Best outboard EQs you can buy.
Well, that's what we were saying, wasn't it, about mixing outside of the boxes. You have to have good equipment.
It's long though. You can't just that sounds pretty good. I'll come back to this tomorrow and just work on this other track now.
Yeah.
You work on a track for 2-3 days until it's right.
Yeah.
It's expensive because you want that listening time as well. So often you go home early and think, oh, it's pretty good that, but I don't want to change the desk or anything. You can't want to change anything in the studio because it's all live, it's all set up. Yep. It takes you hours to put it back again if you pull it down again. So you leave the mix up, you go home, come back the next day, you have a relaxed day, just sitting around listening to it, really, making the odd little tweak.
Yeah.
Costing £1,000 a day in a big SSL studio.
Yeah.
So it's an expensive process. Not many people can afford it these days. And yeah.
Yeah.
But you can buy your own SSL for not too much money these days.
Well, we're talking about this at the minute, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because I think that is going to be
You
one
can
of the
buy a
plans.
big old one, though, for even cheaper than those AWSs.
Yeah, but you couldn't afford to run it.
That's the thing.
Like
saw the other day, though,
£5,000 electric bill.
yeah, but I
month.
saw someone selling power supplies for old SSLs and Neves that run at about something like 20% power consumption.
Oh, really?
You buy a nice modern power supply for it. Instead of having a rack of 4, which the SSL used to have, they're selling this one power supply that powers a whole 56-channel SSL.
Right.
And runs at something like 20% of the power consumption. So that, if you got one, the other problem is the maintenance, the on-site maintenance guy. SSLs regularly need capacitors changing.
Right.
So you need someone who knows how to solder on a board.
Yeah.
And knows how to change them. I don't think you get a big old SSL in there.
No, I don't think
you'd have to make this the control room.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it. To be honest, I don't know if it'd be needed here either. Do you know what I mean?
No,
I think
probably not.
A 24-channel AWS SSL.
No, I think that would do it.
Well, yeah, it'd be about right for this place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless they bring out something new soon.
Yeah, with a bunch of compressors in the rack.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with those things is they don't have the compressor on every channel.
I think I'd want the variety of compressors more than the EQs though, if I'm honest. Because I quite like the SSL EQs anyway. But I would want distressors and probably a tube tech and a variety of different.
Both, I'd have the channel compressor on it, and I'd have a tube tech on it as well. I'd have the channel compressor just giving it a little tickle on the way in, and then I'd have like a tube compressor on the insert.
Yeah, true. True. Well, you can buy the outboard ones, can't you? Like they do a rack, don't they, with like 24 SSL compressors.
Yeah, I don't know about that one of yours. I like that. Not sure if it's the same. I can't work out if they're the same.
Well, it's because it's a 500
the ones
series,
that actually get pulled out of an old desk and then racked up. You know what I mean? When they hack up an old desk and they rack them up.
I thought that sounded alright, that kick drum through that last
night.
night.
Yeah, I think it sounded good. The SSL was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. You didn't like the Lindell one, did you?
Just didn't feel like it used to.
Right.
They've changed the knobs on it. That's what it is. That's the problem. And when they do that makes you wonder, have they changed any components as well?
It's funny how the littlest thing can just throw you off.
Have they changed components, though? Maybe they just used a different make of resistors.
Yeah.
Because they can't get the ones they used to use or something, you know what I mean? Yeah. That changes the sound, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, changing anything inside them changes the sound, doesn't it?
Those SSL compressors are DBX.
Yeah.
It's the 160 you've got there. It's actually the black 160, the old ones.
Right.
It's the chip from there. In every SSL channel, they licensed it from DBX.
Right.
I mean, when you pull out an SSL channel and have a look on it.
Oh, you could just get a full rack of DBXs.
DBXs racked on the side.
Ones.
That's the other thing is a rack full of DBX 160s.
I saw one of them going for £80 the other day.
I love those DBX 160 XTs.
Yeah.
I'd have 48 of them in a rack if I could.
Yeah.
Some people do.
I've seen studios with just full rack of them as well.
Have that, yeah. But distressors as well would be really good.
Yeah.
And
you don't like the stereo tube check one, do you?
The mono ones are better.
Yeah, well, they're 4 times the price as well.
Yeah, 2 monos is better than one stereo.
Yeah.
And
definitely. They're about £4,500. It's CL1B, isn't it, you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about £4,500 now, aren't they?
In Strong Room, we had 2 mono ones in Studio 1, and then they built Studio 3 and they bought a stereo one.
Right.
And we were like, why is it not as good?
I've seen a lot of people using the stereo one that rave about it, though. So I don't know if it was
great.
maybe just didn't have enough time with it.
But when you AB it to the other one, it's not as good.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you work in a studio like Strong Room, you have the opportunity to A/B stuff against things, and that's when you notice the differences.
Yeah. And we'd spend whole days where manufacturers would come in
and just work.
And we'd have a day with them, and Strong Room would get a free bit of kit out of it at the end. So they'd give them the studio, and we'd all come in, like 5 or 6 of us in the heyday at Strong Room. That was the best thing about it. It was like a community there, and there was 5 or 6 of us on the books as engineers.
Yeah,
managed by Strong Room as well, working in all the various different rooms because there was like 7 studios there or something.
Yeah,
and so when we'd all come together and we'd all sit in Studio 1 together and compare bits of gear.
Right. Yeah.
Comparing the latest new mics or whatever it was.
I bet that's a great way to learn stuff, isn't it? Because you can like bounce off each other with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't beat blind A/B tests.
Yeah.
Where we'd always sat in a row at the back of the room with our eyes closed. Right, this is number 1, and he'd play it to us, and the tech guy from the studio would be unmuting the channels on the desk.
Right.
He'd have it all set up perfectly. He'd have all pre-prepared it, so all the levels were matched and everything was matched, and so it was like a blind, proper scientific test.
Right, cool.
With some of the best engineers in London sat there listening to it and agreeing or disagreeing.
Yeah.
Mostly agreeing.
Yeah, was it?
Most of the time, it was a consensus. We'd all be agreed that sounded better. A particular thing, whatever it was we were testing.
Yeah. No, cool.
Yeah.
So mixing then. Do you do top-down mixing?
Do what?
Top-down mixing. So
Top-down
mix your
mixing.
stereo bus first. So you get your levels right. Then you do a stereo bus. And then from there you do your drum bus.
So if I get someone sends me a bunch of stems to mix, I drop them into Pro Tools first off, arrange them in Pro Tools, so my kick drums at the top.
All the way down
I
to
always have it neat, so I know what I'm doing. And that stems back to the days when you used to record, you always put your kick on channel 1, so I do it the same way.
Yeah.
And then I'll get a rough balance up, don't put any plugins on it. I'll use my desk, and I'll put all the faders up one at a time, and get a rough balance, listen to the tune 5 or 6 times before putting any plugins on it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll pull all the faders down, start my kick drum.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Right.
And EQs, sort my kicks out, get my drum sound up. Once then I'll bust my drums up through an aux, put a compressor on them, and I'll pull my bass in. If there's more than one bass channel, I'll bust that through an aux. Then I don't really bust much after that. My drums and bass. Sometimes I tend to use VCA groups more than busting it through a fader.
Right.
With guitars and things like that. Sometimes I will, but it's the reverbs that once you bust it out, and unless you're busting the reverbs through the same bus.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I work still like analog, so I'll use aux sends mostly for my reverbs, and have them coming back aux returns down the end of the desk. And so if you bust up a bunch of guitars and you send it to reverb, you have to dedicate a reverb to those guitars and put that through the bus as well, else it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah.
Because then if you pull the bus down, it doesn't change. The reverb level stays the same, but so the wet-dry balance changes.
Yeah.
So that's probably the reason I don't use that many buses for guitars. Sometimes I will. If I've got like 4 guitars that are all playing the same thing, I might bust them together in smaller groups. Mm-hmm. But I don't often do the whole guitar lot. Or the same with keyboards and the rest of it. Backing vocals, sometimes I'll use a stereo bus for all the backing vocals.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's a group, but again, because the reverbs, different amount of reverbs on the high and low harmonies, I'll probably put a bit more reverb on the higher harmonies than the lower harmonies.
Yeah.
And so I don't really want to bust it and put them all through the same reverb.
So, all right, so here's a question for you, because I used to mix that way. So I'd start with the kick, work my way along the drums, get the drum bust on, and then start with the bass. But I would always run into problems that by the time I finished, I'd want the kick to sound completely different when I've got everything else in.
Yeah,
it's not
set in stone, my first EQ and my first drum sound.
Yeah, because that's when I started top-down mixing.
I'll go around it 2 or 3 times.
Right, okay.
And at various stages, I'll solo up all the drums and work on them a bit more.
Yeah.
Then unsolo them. And it becomes a process after that. But my initial pass, I'll go through every single channel, set up an EQ and a compressor on every channel, what effects and things like that, and get them all set up and get a balance going.
Yeah.
And then I'll start analysing it, and I might change the kick completely. I might suddenly decide then to trigger the kick and make a new one, because if it's not working or whatever. But until I get it sounding good and get a good balance going, I don't know these things.
Yeah.
So
I suppose you have
got to start somewhere.
Years of experience as well to know roughly how it's going to sound before you even start as well, don't you?
Yeah, you kind of have a bit of that, and a bit of I know how I want a kick to sound when I'm EQing it straight away, and as soon as I put it up, I'm hearing what frequencies I want to pull out and what I want to put in.
Yeah.
That can be a good and a blessing and a curse sort of thing, though, because those preconceived ideas, you got to try to forget them sometimes as well.
Because you don't want everything to sound the same.
Because everything sounds the same, and it doesn't suit every track. And suddenly, so I reference as well.
Yeah.
I'm listening to reference mixes and things like that.
Yeah. I always say that to bands, though, whenever they send me a song to mix, is give me a couple of references that you're thinking of at the same time.
If they don't, I find my own.
Yeah.
And,
but I do find it helps a lot because it gives you an idea of what they're thinking it's going to sound
and
like.
I'll have them at the top of my arrangements so that I can easily flick between them, and I'll match the levels to my mix.
Yeah.
So that I can easily just flick between the reference track and see where I'm at, sort of thing.
So what would be your top 3 tips for mixing then if you were just starting?
Perspective. And get perspective on your mix. Don't spend too long in each session. Don't spend 6-7 hours in one go. Take a break after an hour or so. Leave the room even just to get that perspective. And because just leaving the room, making a cup of tea and coming back, you hear it differently. Resets you.
Yeah,
Change speakers.
Well.
Often change speakers. Don't stay on the same speakers all day. Don't stay on headphones all day.
Yep.
Regularly switch between your different speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Having as many sets of speakers to listen on as possible is ideal.
Yeah.
I've only got 2 sets of speakers set up at the moment. Ideally, you'd have 3 sets of speakers.
Yeah, I want to get some of the Orotone cubes as a third set for my room.
I need a third alternative set. I'm missing. I'm in the Genlex I had at my old place.
Yeah.
I might buy a pair of those cheap Adams.
Yeah.
Just to have a third set of speakers.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like the Adam speakers, aren't they?
I don't know where I'll put them. Ben, who was in the other day, has bought the cheaper budget.
Yeah, he was
the new budget one. He said they're brilliant.
Yeah.
And the mixes he's been doing on them sound pretty good.
Yeah.
So coming out of his bedroom. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm tempted to rip out with a pair of them again. That's why I want PMC to open, because I want to go and A/B them to the others.
Yeah.
And see how close to the expensive ones they sound.
Yeah.
I reckon they'd be pretty close.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because the technology is getting better and better and cheaper to manufacture.
Yeah.
And once they've got a good design and they know what they're doing, often a company that KRK did that.
The cheaper ones.
The expensive KRKs were great, and I used to use them a lot. Yeah, the big square sort of ones, the original ones. First, an American guy brought them over to Strong Room on a session, and they were known as like good for rock.
Yeah.
And then I listened to them, I thought they're good for techno as well. Good for drum and bass, and good for pretty much anything. And I loved them. And then he left them at Strong Room for a while. Right. So they were set up in one of the rooms, so he used to use them quite a bit. Yeah. And then when he finally came back and took them away, I was like, well, we've got to get a set of them guys. So Strong Room bought a set.
Right. Yeah.
Then the Rockets came out. I thought, bloody hell, for like a quarter of the price pretty much, they're very close.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I think Adam have done the same.
Yeah.
Done the same
you do hear a lot more people talk about Adam speakers now, don't you, than you used to?
Yeah. There's a few new manufacturers as well in there. I can't remember the names now. There's some LA company that's just released some speakers, and there's a few new ones around. There's a bit of a choice.
Yeah. Right, so tip number 1 would be perspective.
So perspective, gain structure.
Yep.
Make sure your gain structure's right all the way through your mix. It's really easy to overload plugins in your chain without realising, especially in Logic and Ableton. Pro Tools kind of gives you peak meters for each section of your plugins, so you can know where you're peaking and you know if you're overloading one particular plugin.
Yeah.
So just make sure your gain structure's right throughout, get your input gain right, and don't overload things when you unintentionally.
Yeah.
It's okay if you want to do it intentionally for effects and stuff, but so get your gain structure right. What else?
I find I spend more time leveling.
Compression.
Okay.
Compression on everything. Everything has a compressor on it. Like when I'm teaching, I can't tell them enough times and they don't do it. There's a reason SSLs and needs put compressors on every channel.
Yeah.
Because you need one on every channel. And you sometimes need 2.
Yeah.
Or quite often.
I often use more than one because I think I like to do little bits with more than do too much with one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
I do that sometimes with EQs as well, to be fair.
And sometimes it's good to compress it right at the top of the chain as it's coming into the channel, and then EQ it, and then have another compressor after the EQ.
Actually. So are you an EQ then compress or a compress then EQ?
Usually EQ then compressor, but sometimes some certain sounds I'll put another compressor on before the first EQ, and I've 2.
So what would be a reason you do that?
Because I like to EQ into my compressor, and I like to get the sound first, and then.
No, why would you put a compressor before you EQ sometimes?
If something's quite peaky.
Okay, so you'd level it out first.
If there's quite a difference in levels, I'll try and level it out first with a bit of overall general compression.
Yeah.
To control that level before it gets to my EQ, and then I can EQ it without really turning it quiet. Mm-hmm. So if you're boosting a certain frequency, you get problematic peaks sometimes in a bass or something like that. I'm thinking sometimes in a vocal, rappers, like that. So sometimes with a rapper, I'll squash him on the way in.
Yeah.
Rap vocals I tend to mix very compressed anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of if I bounce it down, it's leveled out.
Yeah.
I limit them and everything.
Yeah.
And don't do so many rides on a rap. I try and just get the compression to hold it at a constant level. Lead vocals, like you can't over compress a song vocal, a female vocal, for example. You notice it too much if you over compress it. So I use compression in conjunction with a lot of automation. Mm-hmm. And I do a lot of volume automation on my vocal channels all the way through the track, every single little bit. It's moving constantly. The vocal faders very rarely sat still.
Yeah, I've been dabbling quite a lot with the Logic app at the minute, and so you can actually move it as you're playing along, and it writes it in for you, which is quite cool.
That's why I love having the C24, because I do live vocal, all my automation I do live.
Yeah.
As if that's the closest for me to mixing on an analog desk.
Yeah.
The C24 gives me that pretty close feeling of mixing on an Eve or an SSL with flying faders. It's 24 at a time is just about enough. That was the problem on big desks. They were too big sometimes.
You need more than one person to do it.
You need to sit in the middle.
A lot of times they had more than one person
half
to do it,
the time,
didn't
your kick drum would be over there. The speakers are here.
I was reading something a while back saying they would always start in the middle of the desk so that you weren't having to move
I used
to
put my drums on 25.
So that you were in the middle of the speakers.
Yeah,
when you were
I do. Yeah, so Strong Room's desk was 1 to so I'd start on 13 with my kick.
Yeah.
And so 1 to 12 would be for mic inputs or whatever. So I'd use them later on. I'd patch stuff up them. I'd always move it down though, so it's in the middle.
Yeah. It's because you didn't want to be moving outside the speakers.
Drums in the middle on the left, and then vocals in the middle on the right.
Yeah.
Just to the right of the centre section.
Yeah.
So my important stuff, I didn't have to move too much.
Yeah.
Guitars, keyboards, pads, things like that, strings, whatever, they could go down the end.
Yeah.
Effects
So you were saying you compress everything. What's your view on compressing guitars then?
Yeah, compress them.
Still do it?
More.
Because a lot of people argue that you shouldn't compress guitars, don't they?
Why?
I don't know. I think that it's one of those instruments that you should... Because I think a distorted guitar is already compressed anyway, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So there sometimes isn't really a need to over-compress it again.
Not really, no. Sometimes guitar, often it's just you go for the sound of a compressor, you go for like a nice valve compressor that's going to give a bit of character to it and add a bit of warmth or a bit of depth to the sound.
Yeah.
Rather than actually using it as a compressor so much.
Yeah.
That's where I tend to use my valve compressors that I had in the rack.
Yeah.
I'd use them on guitars and things like that.
So tip 1 is perspective. Tip 2 was...
Gain structure.
And 3 is compression. Always use it.
Always use it across every single channel.
Yeah.
So
any tips for using compression in a right way?
Don't overdo it. You shouldn't be able to hear a compressor. If you switch it in and out, you shouldn't be able to tell when you switch it in and out. But
I think that's half everyone's problem with using compressors, isn't it? Yeah.
If you can hear it, it's too much.
Yeah.
Unless you're intending it like that way.
Yeah.
Like by trying to get a Led Zeppelin drum sound or whatever.
Yeah.
Certain drum mics, I'll over compress my room mics and things like that. I'll quite heavily compress them.
Yeah.
To kind of emulate tape in that case. Because the old days you used to slam your drum levels onto tape, especially your room mics, to get that tape compression going.
Yeah.
So these days in the box, I'm trying to emulate that a little bit with the room mics, which is why.
Do you ever try tape emulators when you're mixing?
Yeah, they're not great.
No. You tried any of the UAD ones yet?
No, not tape emulators. No.
I've got a couple on that you should try because they are quite good.
Yeah.
Because their new console or Luna they're using, you can put one on the way in, so you can hit it hard.
Yeah.
As you're going in and it hits the tape and rounds it off like
all that stuff though, all analog stuff, valve stuff, all it is EQ.
Yeah.
So you can get the same results by using a compressor and an EQ. You can emulate your own tape emulator.
Yeah.
You can make it sound like it's been come off tape just from using EQ, by using the low mids correctly and getting the right amount of low mid, or slight bits of overdrive as well. I use the Saturn, the Fabfilter Saturn is brilliant.
Yeah, I've got it, but I've never really tried it.
Brilliant multi-band overdrive.
Is it, yeah?
So you can just pick out a certain frequency and drive it a bit more.
Right, okay.
That's like a tape emulator.
Right.
To me, and I think I can make it better myself than these plug-in manufacturers that have made the tape emulators. I feel that just doing it with 2 or 3 different plugins, I'll get the same result, but better.
Yeah. I might have to try using that then.
Yeah, the Saturn's amazing. I love it.
Right.
It's for all kinds of sounds, just to give you a bit of grit, a bit of dirt in something.
Yeah, it's one of those plugins that I've kind of pulled up a few times, but if you don't know what you're doing with it, you kind of just skip to the next one. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot. I think it does a lot, but
I set up a couple of presets and tend to use those presets all the time now.
I may have to nick them off.
So when I first got it, I just set them up. I just got my bands right, set it so I think it's 5 band or something like that. Got my crossover points where I wanted them.
Yeah.
And the right amount of drive, so I could just then easily just turn up the drive the right amount.
Right. Yeah.
For everything, because a lot there's a lot of sounds in there, there's a lot of presets in there, but most of them are a bit extreme, and I wanted it quite.
That's what I always find when I use it. When
so
I'm
I just made
that
quite a subtle one first as my starting preset, and then quite often that's the one I start with.
Right. Yeah.
And
Cool.
I just manually adjust it to taste each time.
Yeah, I might have to check out your presets and see what you've done with it.
Yeah, it's stopped working now since I've updated to Big Sur though.
Oh. We're not going into another.
Get Saturn back again.
We can't go into another debate about Big Sur. I think that covers it, doesn't it? Really, I'm sure we could sit here talking about mixing for the best part of 2021.
Compress your whole mix as well. Put your whole mix through a bus compressor.
Yeah.
SSL bus compressor, real one if you got one.
Or the Neve, the UAD Neve one's really nice
The
as well.
UAD Neve one's amazing. I'm converted to UAD now.
Yeah, no, I've converted him.
the UAD EQ is the closest thing to a real Neve that I've ever tried.
Yeah, I gave you one of my cards, didn't I?
Yeah.
So you could use the new a lot of my plugins that I've got.
88R plugin is the one. It's just like an 88R.
Yeah, I've never really got to grips with that problem, but I think it's because I'm not used to using Neve stuff. So because I watched you were flying through it yesterday. And I was like, yeah, maybe I need to relook at this.
Familiarity.
Yeah.
It feels like it used to. It feels like a Neve.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I know, and you just kind of there's certain things you do on SSLs and Neves are both different. Like the SSL on that divide by 3 trick, Neve one, you press the shelf buttons in and put the bottom end on as low as it'll go, and then turn it up full.
Right.
And then just back it off slightly, maybe.
Right, cool. Should we get a coffee?
All right, guys. So see you next week.
Thank you very much. If you did like the episode, like and subscribe, and we'll see you when we've both got the urge to do another episode.
Come and book the studio.
Yeah. Bye.